evening, everyone, and welcome to the City of La Verne's Candidates Forum. Can everyone hear me? Okay. My name is Lupe Galleta Estrella. I'm the acting city clerk for the City of La Verne. Thank you. I would like to take this opportunity before we start to thank the many volunteers that are here tonight to assist in the forum. And special thanks to Yvonne Duran and her awesome staff for setting up this room. And also, I would like to thank LVTV and their staff for being here and recording the forum. There will be an opportunity for audience members to ask questions of the candidates during the program. If you didn't pick up a card before you came in, we will have runners here, dressed in red. We have Gabby over here, Eddie over here, and Adela on the left. Raise your hand, and they'll bring you a pencil, a card, and just fill out the question. But please note that there is a time constraint. It may not make it possible to hear all the questions. After the forum, the candidates have set up individual tables with their literature in the back rooms. Also, the County of Los Angeles is here in the back room with a ballot demonstration. So anybody who's kind of scared about, casting a ballot, this is your chance to see how that feels. Please take a moment to visit them after the forum. First of all, I'd like to explain the process for tonight's forum. It will be breaking into 4 phases. Phase 1. Each candidate will be given 3 minutes for opening comments. Phase 2, all candidates' questions, 2 minutes each. All mayor candidate questions, 2 minutes each. All council candidate questions, 2 minutes each. Phase 3, we repeat the same. All candidates' questions, 2 minutes. All mayoral questions, 2 minutes. All council questions, 2 minutes. Now, we will have an opportunity for individual questions before closing comments if we finish prior to 8:30 p.m., okay? Closing comments for each of the candidates, 3 minutes. Based on that format, the number of candidates we expect to be done around 9:15. There'll be timekeepers here in the front row that is following with the following warning system. Yellow, 30 seconds. Red means they have 10 seconds. Then the red stays up until they stop. Okay. So now I have the privilege of introducing you to tonight's moderator, and we're very fortunate to have San Bernardino County Superior Court Judge Stan Rickert overseeing the forum tonight. Okay, Judge Rickert, will be following the city rules of procedures as he moderates the forum. The judge is a graduate of the University of Utah, graduated of Columbia Law School. Before taking the bench, the judge was a civil trial lawyer handling insurance defense cases and also ran his own firm for 20 years. In 2001, the Supreme Court appointed him to one of the 5 state bar courts and trial judges. In 2002, the Los Angeles Superior Court judge elected Judge Rickert, to be a court commissioner. And he served the Los Angeles Mosque Courthouse in West Covina, and in 2005, he was appointed to the San Bernardino Superior Court, where he currently serves. He has 2 adult children and 1 granddaughter. Welcome, Judge Rickert.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Judge Rickert, San Bernardino Superior Court. I'd like to welcome you all to the Candidates Forum tonight and give you a little more detail with respect to the ground rules that we're going to follow tonight. The candidates will each give an opening statement 3 minutes, and first the mayoral candidates and then the city council members, and they will be giving their opening statements in the order that the Secretary of State's random drawing provided. Believe it or not, the Secretary of State draws letters out of a hat. They're assigned numbers, and that's how the ballot listings are made. Then, after each candidate gives a 3-minute opening statement, we'll move into the question and answer period. Let me point out that this is a question and answer session, not a debate, a question and answer session. And as Ms. Lupi mentioned, each of you can submit questions addressed to all the candidates. If time permits, we may be allowing specific questions to specific candidates. And we have runners in the audience to pick up the questions. If you have a question in writing, please make it brief and with your best handwriting so we can read it. And then each council candidate will have 2 minutes to respond to questions directed to all the candidates. And we'll rotate how the order goes. And then at the conclusion of the question and answer session, there will be 2 question and answer sessions. Then we'll have closing statements, and those will be 3 minutes each. And I'll introduce each of our candidates as we proceed through the initial opening statements. Let me remind you that this is the best part of a democracy. It's an open question and answer session, but one of the best parts of a democracy is civility, courtesy, and respect for everyone here. And I want to emphasize that from the very beginning, and that our regular rules of decorum will apply, and that you show respect, because that's how you show respect to our flag, our country, and our Constitution. Thank you very much. So let me turn now. I believe we're ready to begin. And as I mentioned, I'm going to make an introduction for each person before each person speaks. And they will be given 3 minutes to give an opening statement. And we'll start with our mayoral candidates. Mr. Tim Hepburn. Mr. Hepburn, good evening. Would you please deliver your opening statement? 3 minutes.
Thank you, Laverne residents, for your letting me share with you my vision for this great city going forward. What unites us all is greater than what divides us. We all want what is best for Laverne. What brought me to this place we are here tonight, to this spot right now, involvement and concern. Before I became a councilman for the last 5 years, I was chair of the Planning Commission. On Hillcrest Board of Directors, I was on the Bond Oversight Committee. I was on the Bonita High School Beautification Committee. I received the Jim Scranton Award for Community Involvement. Received the Founders Award for Community Service. Sponsored Hillcrest Good Samaritan Dinners and Teacher of the Year. Sponsor for the Beer Walk, Wine Walk, Taste of Laverne, Laverne Ed Foundation Golf Tournament. I was president of BH Boosters. I donated all of the electrical for the Habitat for Humanity home. Installed all audio infrastructure for the scoreboard and BHS football field. T-ball coach, baseball sponsor, ASO coach, board member and sponsor team parent for multiple high school sports, PTA member, choral sports. I am currently a member of the Laverne Rotary and serve as the 3rd vice president of the San Gabriel Valley Council of Governments. I'm very honored to be the only candidate to be endorsed by all of the school board members. I mention my past experience not because I want you to know my resume, but because long before I ever thought I would run for city council or mayor, I was just a concerned resident. And I wanted to give back to our community and contribute where I could, however I could. It turns out 30 years of being active in this community was the best experience I could have asked for to prepare and educate me to take on the role as your mayor. As your city council member, together, we have put enhanced infrastructure financing district in place to develop the Gold Line Station corridor. We financed the pension obligation bond at a more affordable rate. We're now live streaming our meetings to give access and transparency to our residents. We have stopped the widening of White Avenue. As a council member, I've worked tirelessly. On your behalf, I have prioritized listening and responding to the residents and your concerns. As mayor, I will continue to build success and build for a safer and more inclusive Laverne. As your mayor, we'll build relationships with our new council members, as well as rebuilding relationships with our current council members and city staff. I will continue to champion for our residents and employees. I've never doubted that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. In this case, Laverne, I count myself lucky to be one of those citizens. And with your support, I would be honored to serve as your mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now let me introduce Mr. Don Kendrick. Mr. Kendrick, 3 minutes, please.
Good evening. There are some misconceptions or fake news that I would like to clear up. It is being said on social media that I do not support the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms. That is absolutely not true. I do support the Second Amendment. There are also state laws that exist on this issue, and I support those as well. Word has been falsely spread that one of the lies that's been spread is that I would like our police and fire departments to go to county. Absolutely not true. I know there's a percentage of our firefighters who would like to take our fire department to the county. I just don't agree. This is a quality of life issue for the residents of Laverne. County means slower response times, possibly double. Laverne answers calls with a paramedic ambulance and fire truck. All 5 responders are certified paramedics. Lucky us. County sends a paramedic truck with 2 certified paramedics and no ambulance. City ambulance transfers to the hospital is paid by the paramedic fee on our water bill and patient's insurance if they have it, and if no insurance, no pay. County will assess the patient, then order ambulance with EMTs, not paramedics, and charge over $1,000. 87% of our fire calls are emergency medical. Which one do you want responding to your family's medical emergencies, city or county? I want city. I will never agree to allow our firefighters to go to the county. My opponent says he wants to retain our city fire, but he is being heavily backed by those who want to go county fire. To me, it seems like a contradiction. A number of times, Councilmember Hepburn has stated he did not disclose closed session confidential information. That is totally untrue. After a city council meeting right here in the community center in 2018, where information was presented that led those of us on the city council to become suspicious, Tim Hepburn was asked by a member of the city council with the city attorney present if he disclosed confidential information as suspected. His answer was yes, and he apologized to the members of the city council and to the city attorney. So I'm asking you, Mr. Hepburn, sometime tonight, it is time to apologize to the residents of the city of Laverne that you, and
Listen to me, please. Listen to me. We are going to have a quiet, respectful audience while these candidates address you. As I started to say initially, the way you show respect to our Constitution is to show respect and civility to the candidates who are going to take an oath, if elected, to uphold that Constitution. Please, please remain respectful while the candidates address you, and quiet. Thank you. Please finish, Mr. Kendrick. And don't take that time, and the time during my speech should not be attributed to his 3 minutes. Go ahead.
I think it is time, Mr. Hepburn, to apologize to the residents of this city for this mistake that you made, just like we do in all of our mistakes, and to not cover it up, but bring it out. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right. And now we'll hear from our third candidate, Zach Gibson. Mr. Gibson, 3 minutes, please.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Zach Gibson, and I'm proud to be, sitting here as your third candidate for mayor of the city of Laverne. Some of you have asked why I've chosen to run, and to be simple, this is where I grew up. This is where my neighbors became friends and his closest family, most of them. These are the streets that I played in, and this is where I learned to ride a bike. These are the people that I care for deeply because this is the community that taught me the meaning of the word. A lot of you have asked, why not council? Why mayor? To which I say, we need a mayor with a healthy, proactive perspective in regards to the future of Laverne. a perspective that includes sustainable policy, fiscal responsibility, and generational thinking. The future of Laverne can and will be able to retain what we so love about our city if we are able to pass the torch to those who have both different and generational expectations and experiences. So that we can give our city the best opportunity possible to problem solve and to keep Laverne the special community that we know it to be. Values we share don't change due to political party. While we may not agree on some political specifics, the office of mayor gives the ability to listen to every perspective more intimately than the ones that we could on council, and our potential lies and our differences coming together to create compromise and balance. Our collective vision for Laverne requires a belief in our potential, and not only restoration of our values, but definitions and policies that reflect them. I'm here tonight for the same reason that all of you are here. We all care enough to make not only our concerns and suggestions heard, but to seek solutions for the severe issues our city is facing. Your calls for change have been heard, and it's time for our city to look at a new perspective, a new angle, because the ways in which we keep coming at these issues are not working. They're only causing discord among us. We need a candidate that has no conflict of interest in regards to the needs and development of our city, and we deserve a mayor that has an innovative plan as to how Laverne can remain both a tight-knit community while moving forward with what lies ahead. Our future relies on leadership that can conceive and implement sustainable policy, and I, like all of you, am here tonight because I believe that we are still a community that can survive and thrive. New leadership is necessary for the health and the future of our city. Under the current management, we have lost control of not just a transparent government, but oversight, accountability, and a return to basic ethics and civility, because we are all a part of this city, and together we can have the potential to make it great. As your third option for mayor, tonight and in the future,
I'm going to have to stop you here, sir, because your time has expired.
that is what I'm offering.
Thank you. All right, let's turn now to our city council candidates. Our first speaker is Mr. Rick Crosby. Mr. Crosby, good evening.
Thank you.
3 minutes.
Thank you. My name's Rick Crosby. I'm running for city council. First of all, I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. Love this crowd that's out here to really hear what the candidates are about. My suggestion first is make sure that you go out there and you're knowing all about us so that you make a really decisioned vote on who you want for council. I've been in education for 23 years, with over 10 of those at Ramona Middle School, where I taught, coached, volunteered, and was an assistant principal. My background is in education. I'm now the assistant superintendent of personnel in DeWarty, where I do all of HR. I'm in charge of over 600 employees. I believe that set is the best for this council. We need people that are going to listen. We need people that are going to be open and reach out for our community. And part of my 3 core beliefs are nurturing relationships, facilitating collaboration, and leading by example through a good work ethic. And I believe that alone will help us move Laverne farther. And the last year and a half, Laverne has been in discourse. We've had a lot of infighting, and we really need to get back to what we're here about. And the people sitting up at the dais need to be about Laverne, not about egos, not about themselves, but really about Laverne, and make sure the interests are there. I was the only one in the state 2 years ago to be invited by the California Teachers Association to be trained with interest-based bargaining. And with interest-based bargaining, you really go back to what you're really fighting for, and that is the interest of each group. And our interest here is Laverne, and we got to remember that. We got to remember to go back what we're here for and why we are sitting up here and why we are running. There are 3 things that I are willing and want to do as a council member. I want to make sure and maintain our safety, our staffing for our police and fire and paramedics. Make sure that we have proper staffing. I want to make sure that we maintain our community's park and open spaces. That means a no at Sierra Laverne in rezoning. I want to make sure that we are smart and facilitate our economic development with supporting small businesses, especially around the Gold Line coming. We need to make sure that we're promoting Laverne. It is us up at the dais and you as residents that really need to shop Laverne and promote Laverne. And those are the reasons why I'm running for City Council. Hopefully I can get your vote on March 3rd. And if you need more information, I'll be back at the table afterwards, or you can go to crosbyforcouncil.com or go on my Facebook page. Thank you so much. I really appreciate everyone coming out tonight.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Mr. Kenny Chang. Mr. Chang, 3 minutes, please.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. My name is Kenny Chang. I'm running for City Council of Laverne of our wonderful city. I come before you tonight to seek your vote and your support. I relocated here to Laverne along with my wife and 3 children a few years ago. A charm, small town, community spirit, and welcome residents have made us fall in love in a new life in Laverne. I'm running for City Council. Simple, is to give back to the community that has welcomed my family. Since moving here, I have sponsored, volunteered for local events such as Summer Concert in the Park, Taste of Laverne, Train with Laverne Cert, and a Christmas morning gifting, which has been very rewarding, interactive experience with our community. I have a wealth of experience in the business sector as a former banker with a master's degree in business administration, and a founder and operator of a real estate and lending company. With your vote, I look forward to applying those skills to our city government, balancing budget, stabilizing public safety, and improve transparency. By these, I mean implementing more consistent, time-tested policies, procedures that are trusted among our residents to lead more efficient and quality service. I help thousands of families and small business owners with their financial needs by funding over $100 million in loans, in turn, help their communities. While doing that, it is important to me to reduce the risk while improving rewards. Always honest with my client and ensure spending is manageable. One thing is big ideas, but quite another to ensure a solid fit between the idea and what Laverne actually needs. Then to turn those relevant ideas into reality. My style includes respectful, collaboration, and solution approach based on clear, rational, best practice, and using of benchmarks. This has made me successful in a highly regulated and competitive environment, and I'm confident that they can also enable me to be your advocate at the City Council. As my mother told me before, it's not how much you know or how much money you have. It's what you do with those knowledge and the money, and that will decide how Laverne will be successful moving forward. If we use our resources properly, Laverne can look forward as a sustainable growth, at least come closer to balance our budget in the short term, which ensure we have safe neighborhood, promoting cities, open bid infrastructure, development, and most importantly, meeting residents and business owners to identify their concerns, which I will continue to do so for my entire term when elected. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wally Emery, let me introduce you, and your turn, 3 minutes, please.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone in the audience, and those of you that might be watching at home in the comfort of your own home, in your pajamas or whatever. My name is Wally Emery. I'm here this evening asking for your vote for the City Council. Community service is a way of life for me. It started in my senior year in high school as an Eagle Scout, which I'm very proud of. And I got my God and Country Award for all you religious friends of mine. I will bring 30 years of combined municipal service, some of which was at the highest level of city government, to the City of Los Angeles as a new council member if elected. Some of my accomplishments are as follows. I was trained in Seattle, Washington by the federal government as a grant officer. I think that's a tool that might be well used at the council level. I served as a chairman of a planning and zoning commission in another city, wrote the city's comprehensive plan, and waged a successful fight against cell phone towers in that town. I served South Pasadena as a reserve police officer, and after 18 years working with people like Mike Antonovich, I retired as a commander. I was elected to the South Pasadena City Council, Mayor Pro Tem, and Mayor. During my tenure as an elected official, we were faced with many serious tasks, one of which was what's going to happen when it goes from 2019 to 2000. Oh my goodness. 1999 to 2000. Everybody was going nuts. Some of the harder things that we had to do is we had to replace our city manager who retired. We had to remove and replace our city attorney, and we had to remove and replace our police chief. I know how to make serious decisions, and I plan on doing so. I was also elected to vice president of the Independent Cities Association. That is a group of 50 cities that are independent cities, much like Laverne here, and we would often share successes and failures. Learning by other people's mistakes, I think, is a great way to go. I plan to share all of my goal line experiences. When I was mayor of South Pasadena, I shepherded the city through the planning, the construction, and the completion of the goal line that went through town. All that glitters is really not gold. I want to thank you very much for listening to me. I look forward to the goal line and helping Laverne have a smooth transition. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me introduce Ms. Wendy Lau. 3 minutes, please.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I look around this room and I'm totally thrilled to see a packed audience, and I'm excited to hear that there's an overflow room and hopefully folks watching at home. So first and foremost, for those of you that have heard me speak before, I am firmly invested in the idea that government is by the people and for the people, and it requires all of us to participate. So I appreciate all of you being here tonight. I know that you could be somewhere else. So thank you. Second, I want to go ahead and introduce myself and let you know what things I bring to this position and why I'm so excited to be here tonight. I know many folks have asked, why would you throw your hat into this ring? Why would you decide to do this? And it's, for lack of a better term, it's for love of the city. I came here in 1996 as a student, and I fell in love with what this place had to offer. I fell in love with what the university had to offer and what this community had to offer. So much so that I decided to move back here. And as I look around this room, I see faces that I've known for over 20 years from school. I see faces that I've just met over the course of this campaign, and I am thrilled to be here because I think that it takes a community of us to move forward and to make sure that the values and traditions that we want to see kept are done so. And so I think that it's important to have someone in this position that not only has a passion and a love for this city, but also has the skill sets to be able to execute on that passion and that love. And I believe I'm that person for you. And I say this because I've had a long history of being a litigator. And you might wonder, well, why would we want a lawyer up there? I can already hear all the lawyer jokes. Don't worry, I've heard them all. But the reality is we're trained to look at things from all angles. We're trained to look at issues and understand the repercussions of those issues from multiple facets and multiple perspectives. And so while we are advocates, we are also trained to look at every side to make sure that the decisions that are being made are for the benefit of the greater good. In my position currently as a risk manager for AECOM, I bring to the table the fact that I have the ability to also look at things from a fiscal perspective, from a societal perspective, from an impact perspective in the community, and really think about what is important to all of us and how can we make good on that. And so I've had a thrilling adventure so far, meeting so many of you. I'm excited to meet more of you and hear your perspectives and your opinions, because I think that's important. So I'm glad to see you all here tonight. I look forward to meeting some of you more personally after this event, and hopefully during my meet and greets and other opportunities throughout the rest of this campaign. And regardless of what happens, I still firmly believe that Laverne is where friends live. And I'd love to be not only your friend, but your council member.
Thank you. Let me introduce now Mr. Jeremy Malici. Mr. Malici, 3 minutes, please.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jeremy Malici, and I hope to be your future council member. Firstly, I'd like to give thanks. I'd like to thank the people of Laverne for giving me this opportunity. I've learned so much from all of you and will always remember this experience. Speaking to business owners, city officials, and the people of Verne has given me a great deal of insight. Never did I think I would learn so much from our community. Next, I would like to thank all of my friends and my coworkers. I've been given so much support, and I truly couldn't have done it without you all. And lastly, I would like to thank my family. My mother, she has supported me immensely throughout my life, and let me tell you, she's the best cook out there. My brother, Connor, aunts, Teresa and Rebecca, my cousins, Desiree and Elizabeth, and best of all, my amazing grandmother and grandfather. Her actions as a pastor have inspired me in so many ways. While I may be younger than my fellow candidates, I do have the experience needed to carry out the duties of a council member. I've worked for the Community Services Department of Pomona since the age of 18. We have helped countless low-income families by taking the increasingly costly burden of childcare off their shoulders. I've helped carry out a variety of different events, taken many youth to amazing field trips, and have coached a variety of different teams in basketball, football, and soccer. I'm also employed by the City of Azusa Public Library. Similarly to my work with Pomona, we are responsible to carrying out a great deal of community-oriented programs, helping the people of Azusa in so many ways. We offer free technology classes for the elderly, free citizenship classes, and a great deal of children's programming, something I would want to bring here to Laverne. If I've learned anything from these experiences, it's that I love helping my community, that I truly look forward to coming into work, something not too many people can say, and that's what I can say about if I were to be your council member, that I have actually helped positively change the lives of hundreds of families in my own work. I have been recognized by the California State Assembly for my work for Chris Holden's Young Legislators program. I've also been recognized by the Dean of Mount SAC for my leadership roles as Vice President of the Astronomy Club. I will continue to be a leader and uphold our community's voices as your council member. I also hold a unique perspective, one that is much different than my fellow candidates. I have grown up in a full-fledged military family, my father being an Army Ranger, my grandfather being a sergeant major, and my mom being a military brat, growing up on military bases throughout her childhood. This has instilled a sense of respect for my country in myself, and understanding that teamwork and unity can accomplish many great things. Lastly, let me say this. Are you sick and tired of the same old local government practices? Are you unsatisfied? Do you believe that government can do more for you? I do. And I believe the first step in pursuing that change is to get someone with a different perspective in that council seat, to strive for change and initiate a pursuit towards a brighter future. Old blood has plagued this country, our state and city. And remember, local government has the greatest impact on the lives of Americans like you and I. A vote for me is a vote for a fresh new perspective, a voice for our constituents. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate you guys all coming out here, and thank you very much.
Let me introduce now Mr. Rich Gill. Mr. Gill, 3 minutes, please.
Well, thank you all. Many of you already know why we're here and what we're doing on top of this rock. For the last year, as many of you know, I've been the eyes and the ears when it came to city council meetings. I've given you the opportunities to watch the video so that you can learn what's been going on, so that you can make the judgments you need to make when it comes to voting. You have learned some positives, you have learned some negatives. You have heard from the fire department, you have heard from the police department, and you have heard from your fellow Lavernians about things that they need and want changed. I have walked downtown Laverne just to talk to people, talk to owners of businesses, and ask them, what would you like to see done? I've heard different things ranging from parking, I've heard different things rating from just overall better conditions in some areas that could be done, even if it just means simple cleaning from day to day. What I would like to do, if given the vote, is to be able to go in and exactly see what needs to be changed. I have always stressed the power of 3, and I will not stop that, because 3 is change. When you vote 3-2, you get to change what has been, and that's what we need now more than ever. I don't dig slander in any way, shape, or form. I don't like it when people go out and put stuff out on somebody's doorstep.
Quiet, please. Please continue. Quiet, no, quiet during the opening statements. Please continue, Mr. Gill.
I don't dig when people put stuff out that trashes their fellow candidate.
Quiet, please.
I truly believe that everyone up here should solely put out based on the merit and what they can do or have done for the city. And anybody, and I mean anybody, that throws out a piece of crap to go ahead and detract from their fellow candidates, I don't even know what to say. That is despicable. We are all here and we want to do a job. We are all here and we want to help the city. How dare you put paperwork on my damn doorstep that freaking messes up with somebody? You're a dog. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now we'll hear, and let me introduce, please, Mr. Mario Esqueda. Mr. Esqueda, 3 minutes, please.
Okay, thank you, Judge. I appreciate everybody coming out here. I know everybody's tired, everybody's worked today. I really appreciate it, and I'm sure the additional candidates here appreciate your interest and willing to come out and see who's going to be out here on the ballot, and also myself. I'm a write-in candidate. My last name is Esqueda, E-S-Q-U-E-D-A. I'll have some information out in the back for you. But I want to just thank you for coming out this evening. Last week, I decided that I wanted to move forward to seek office for the city of Laverne as a candidate for the council. After the recent turn of events with our national leadership, it prompted me to realize that leadership begins within the community we reside. Candidacy should not be simply for the sole purpose of actual office, but should set an example of service. The block our homes are on, the neighborhood in which we reside, and the neighbors we live amongst. Setting the example of service, and yet more importantly, the mutual respect toward all community residents and also our civic leaders. Opportunity is still available for me. That's why I'm here this evening to be supported as a write-in candidate. Living in Laverne for many years has made me appreciate what our community has to offer. The importance is the continued growth of our city businesses, the support for our foundational university and unified district, the need to support our local community, its homes that are in the city, such as Hillcrest, David and Margaret, and the Leroy Haynes home up the street, and our public employees, which is very important. I can tell it is very important. Elections in the original intended form of service and representation. Elections in the original intended form of service were for representation of our neighbors, has eroded nationwide. These values I've described at a grassroots level from within our city should and could serve as an example to national leadership and also allow for the reframing of the bifurcated relationship of our citizens and public servants. True leadership is not limited to those who reside within our capital. It should begin and exist within our own Laverne and surrounding communities. And I thank Judge Reichart for emphasizing it's best when civility and respect is emphasized. I've been a 20-year resident. I'm retired military. I have an MBA from the University of Laverne. I've been working in the city of Ontario for 25 years. I'm a volunteer program. I volunteer for many programs throughout the city, PTA, AYSO coach and volunteer, LVGSA volunteer and supporter, Azusa Pacific Advisory Board member, and recently the Laverne Heritage Foundation. I'm a value and family-oriented candidate. Thank you for any consideration with respect and appreciation.
Thank you very much, candidates. We're now going to move into our next segment for the program, and that is questions for all of our candidates. And each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond to the question. And I'm going to vary the order as we go through the questions, but I'm going to keep the order from the Secretary of State that we did for the opening statements for this first question. And again, this is addressed to all the candidates, both mayoral and council. Here's the question. Please explain your assessment of how the firefighters' vote of 27-1 of no confidence of their fire chief could have been handled differently. And so let me turn for 2 minutes to Mr. Hepburn. Mr. Hepburn, go ahead, please.
That's a real big question. And I will say I will revert that back to Mayor Kendrick's opening statement. Mr. Kendrick, where were you when the 27 firefighters had a vote of no confidence against the chief? What did you do? I was the only council member that stood there and supported the firefighters. Out of the city manager, the city attorney, you, Mr. Mayor, my 3 council members decided that apparently you didn't love your firefighters as much as you said you did. We should have stopped. We should have addressed it. I asked the city manager the minute that happened, when it first came out in May, that you're going to let one individual destroy the fabric of a fire department that we've had for many, many years. And his comment to me was, he's done nothing wrong. Well, I beg to say that $5.5 million later, this city experienced a tremendous lawsuit, and we're losing firefighters because there's still problems within the city with the firefighters and how they're treated, which should have never happened. If we had a risk manager and an HR director, that would have never happened to this city. I would have made sure of that case if I was the mayor. That never would have happened under my watch. We have to treat our employees fairly, pay them fairly. They're part of this, just like our residents. The most important thing we have are our residents and our employees. That should have never happened. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kendrick, 2 minutes, please.
Councilmember Hepburn is absolutely correct. It's very unfortunate what happened, but it certainly wasn't my fault, and I certainly did not turn my head away in trying to address this issue. The city of Downey and the city of Manhattan Beach had been represented by a certain attorney who had sued the city based on a no confidence vote and other things. That same attorney got involved with our firefighters and did the same thing. And so this lawsuit that ended up going to trial, the pretrial, the judge basically threw everything out. There was nothing that anybody had done wrong. The chief, the battalion chief, absolutely nobody was at fault. It was a pre-programmed organization with the city attorney, or not the city attorney, but the attorney that represented those 3 organizations. As soon as our suit was filed, or settled, West Covina went right into the same exact thing. So this is a blueprint by an unfortunate organization that I think damaged our city. And I don't find fault with our firefighters. I find fault with the city attorney, or not our city attorney, but the attorney that represented the organization that took our firefighters down and the city down.
Quiet, please. Quiet, please. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Kendrick. Thank you. Mr. Gibson, 2 minutes, please.
I would have handled it differently by listening. I believe that you listen to your employees. I come from a film background, and if there's a safety issue in any department, it gets addressed right away because we don't want anything bad to happen to anyone there. I think if somebody comes to you with safety concerns and their job is the safety of the city and the residents, I think you should take that seriously. Even if you might not believe it, if 27-1 that you just said is saying, hey, there's something wrong, at least check into it. I would have at least checked into it. People might call me biased. I came from a fire family, public service my entire life. Half my family's in police, the rest is in fire, so I kind of take that seriously to not do anything. And I think to say that, well, nobody's at fault, well, if you're not taking...
Excuse me, there's someone's phone's going off, which is very distracting. Could someone turn their phone off, please? Don't stop the timer for Mr. Gibson. Pardon? There we go. Thank you. Would you please all put your phones on silent? I feel like I'm in the courtroom.
Thank you. Don't worry
All
about
right.
that too much.
Thank
That
you.
always happens.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Gibson, please continue. Thank you. Sorry for
Thank you.
interrupting.
No worries at all. Somebody's at fault, and I think it starts with you can't say blame all the people around you. It starts from the top. The top has to take things seriously, and the way that it seemed is that the top didn't take it seriously, and those are your public safety people, and if you say that you care about them, I would take every little thing seriously that they are saying, and that's how I would have handled it differently. I would have just said, okay, well, I might not believe you, maybe, depends, but let's look into it. It'll only take a day, and I don't think it takes much time to do that.
Thank you. Mr. Crosby, please, 2 minutes.
Thank you so much. Why I feel that I am the best candidate for city council is my background in human resource and personnel. I believe in communication and talking with the firemen and making sure, and with all of our employees and associations. A lot of times during negotiations or during times where there's issues, communication stops. But that is when it's the most important time to do it, is have that open communication and keep talking. Because if you keep talking and don't close off that communication, you can come to find a resolution. Where in fact, last night, I was talking to the Firefighters Association because I wanted to just associate myself with them and make sure that I'm listening to what their needs are. We all need to be open and make sure that we are having conversations, and not just as a mayor, or it has to be the entire city council. It's not just one person's job, it is all of our jobs. And we need to make sure that we keep the best interests of our residents at hand and make sure that we are talking to our employees. Our employees, though they do great jobs for us and run our city and help us out, it's our residents' view that we have to make sure that we are keeping forward as well. And that but the most important thing we need to do is have those communication lines open and keep talking, especially when it gets tough, especially when it gets hard, because that is when you're going to find your resolutions. That's what I promise to do as your council member.
Thank you. Mr. Chang, 2 minutes, please.
Yes, my approach will be different, being more proactive. Like a small business, as a small business owner, I have an HR department, and that's critical because HR professionals are the one that handles those kind of personal issues. And be proactive, just because it might not be our job, but as a council, we need to proactively engage. If we have a letter or complaint from any of our employees, we need to jump in and engage and find out what happened. Whether it's our job or not, or whether someone else will take care of it, we don't want to wait until last minute and then have to pay attorneys, get an attorney to talk. It's not necessary. And by HR law, in any small business, we know if any employee that complains, you have to take action immediately, whether the complaint is valid or not. Take it seriously. Listen to what they have to say and engage to it. I think that's we can handle differently. And of course, some people might say, it's easy for you to say afterward when things already happen, but that happen every day. At least in my company, if any complaints come to me, whether it's for employees or from clients, I take that immediately, personally, and talk to the person and listen what happened, and hear both sides of the stories. Then we can get more people involved to evaluate and discuss so we can resolve the issue without really going to any lawsuits. And I will plan to do and continue to do if I elected. Thank you.
Mr. Emery, 2 minutes, please.
Thank you, sir. As a police officer in South Pasadena, I was dispatched to the Ole's hardware fire where 4 people unfortunately lost their lives. I had the pleasure of working with Pasadena, San Marino, Alhambra, South Pasadena, and LA County Fire Department. I think what most of the people in this room and maybe at home don't realize, these gentlemen and these ladies put on a badge and they go to work every day and they put their life on the line to keep us safe. As a mayor of South Pasadena, I negotiated contracts with the police departments, the fire department, public works, water department, street department, and we never, ever, ever had this horrible stain between the departments, whether they be public safety or the departments within the city. It just never happened. If you're polite and you're honest and you show what your budget can afford and you speak to people as people and not speak at them, this never should have happened. Thank you.
Ms. Lau, 2 minutes, please.
Thank you. I think the important question to think about here is not what would you have done if you were in that position, but what can we do going forward? Because I think from what I've seen from city council meetings, from talking to folks throughout this campaign and through living here, is that rehashing it is not going to make it better. I think the real issue is how are we going to heal and how are we going to move forward? And I've heard that comment made by numerous folks during our city council meetings. How will we move this forward? And so I think the important thing is many of the things that these candidates have brought up about open communication and being transparent and being communicative and listening to each other, well, rather than talk about it, we have to do it. And so we know now, unfortunately, it's a painful lesson learned. And as an attorney, I represented many companies and organizations in employment disputes, and all too often I had to say, this is your expensive lesson learned. And so you can be mad about it, and then you gotta let it go, and then you have to move forward to figure out how you don't get in that situation again. And so that's really important, because what breaks my heart is watching this city tear itself apart and get mad at each other and call each other names when you've grew up together, you lived next to each other for many moons, you had kids that went and played baseball together. That's not who we are. That's not why I moved here, and I would hazard to guess, and I'm not a betting woman, but I would bet that that's not why you moved here. So the big question is, how do we move forward? Not what could we have changed in the past, because as far as I'm aware, I don't have a time machine, and neither do any of you.
Thank you. Mr. Milici, 2 minutes, please.
Okay. Well, I believe the city should have listened to their employees. A 27-1 no confidence vote, 27-1, that's nearly the entire department. And we didn't see the correct decisive decision-making measures to carry out responsible actions to go against these claims. And then we have a $5.5 million payout, $5.5 million, plus a $280,000 overtime fee payout, along with legal fees. The residents of Laverne should be very upset. This is a lot of money. This is a substantial sum of cash, and we just didn't see the correct measures taken. I think looking forward, it is important to look forward, and it's important to remember the mistakes we've made. We need to understand, and we need better dialogue. We need to discuss this with not only the community of Laverne, but the people, the employees working for us. I've talked to a lot of firefighters, I've met a lot of them, and I've met a lot of residents. And I'll say this once, I'll say this again. I've heard very, very little bad things about the fire department. They're professional, they carry out their duties correctly, they're here for us, they come when we're in need. I've heard countless stories where someone's on the verge of death, and they come and they save us. These are important individuals, and we need to uphold correctly how we treat them and how we go about our procedures. And also, we now see repercussions from this. The browning out of Station 3 is not, no one's in there. This is now a safety issue. We have a fire engine that we recently purchased, and no one's on it. We're wasting more and more money. We have a very high turnover rate in the department. Many people are leaving. It's seen as more of a stepping stone now. And it's a huge burden on our community. And you know what upsets me most is the fact that when I look up Laverne Fire Department on Google, the first thing that comes up is lawsuits, 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 a bunch of lawsuits. And that's just unacceptable. So if I were a council member, we'd have better dialogue and go about this issue in a much better manner. Thank you.
Mr. Gill, 2 minutes, please. Thank you.
When it comes to public safety, nobody knows about using your life to protect others and military members. We do that, and we've done that throughout our careers. We know what it is to put self before service. We know what it is to save those that need to be saved. When it comes to the fire department and the police department, all they want to do is be heard. They just want people to listen to what they have to say. Even if it's as simple as just going over on a Friday, sitting down and saying, what do you got? Let's hear it. What can we do to make it better? What can we do to make changes that are going to help not just you, but the community at large? It's a shame that our fire department is the way it is. We heard from the fire chief on the 21st of January saying why he browned out the fire department, to give people a rest. Overworking anybody doesn't make them any better. Overtaxing any of our public safety doesn't make it any better. We need and we will fix it. We will talk to our fire department. We will talk to our police department. And we will work it out and make it better. We will get the contracts that need to be done signed. And we will be able to have people that are happy, knowing full well that everybody in public safety is there and ready when the call comes. Thank you.
Mr. Escada, 2 minutes, please.
Thank you, Judge. First of all, I just want to thank the fire department and also the police department. I know that they've come to my house. I know Kevin Wilton's been in my house during an emergency. He's back there. Thank you, Kevin, and I appreciate it.
Quiet, thank you, but please remain quiet. Thank you.
But the largest concern is that the questions that are provided by the audience, it has happened. We need to move forward, okay? And we need to reestablish and rebuild our relationship with our city employees, amongst the city council, and also the citizens. I know that I'm a big advocate of walk-around management. I don't know exactly what happened with the chief and why the no confidence vote was implemented, but I do know that it was a 27-0 vote. Well, we've been out for 27 days today on a brownout on Station 3. And that is a very large concern for everybody, because if we don't have those firemen up there, then something's going to happen, and somebody in this room is going to be impacted by that. So we really need to mend and heal. This situation has gone on. The lawsuit came, the lawsuit went, everything has been paid out. We just really need to look forward, and as a leader on the city council, I'm reaching out to them, not with an olive branch, but with the manner of respect that they all deserve, and I'm asking them to accept my hand also. Thank you.
Thank you very much, candidates. Now we're moving to a question just for the mayoral candidates. And so you'll have a little advance warning. I'm going to be starting with Mr. Gibson answering this question. The question for all the mayoral candidates is, what's the single most important thing you want to accomplish that can only be done by the mayor? 2 minutes, Mr. Gibson, please.
The single most important
Single
thing
most
that can
important
be-
thing you want to accomplish that can only be done by the mayor.
That's a little tough since the mayor is nothing more than just the face of the city, a figurehead of the council itself, since we just have one vote. Now, with that, because we are the most visible, one of us will be the most visible person in the council and in the city, I think we can listen more to the residents. We can invite them to be, have more open door policy. I would like to see less closed city council meetings. I'd like to be able to have more modernization of the city, but more really modernization of the access to the city services and to the government itself and to the information that we have that citizens want, and then we make this huge runaround to do it. I know it's government, I know we have to have rules in place, but we can make it a little easier, and I'd like to be able to see actual true transparency, and for me, that would be going up to the council and throwing out, well, I'd like to see more fiscal responsibility in the form of actual itemized expenditures in our audits. We do city audits every year, but they don't show us anything. It just shows us how much money we've spent. Now, if I went to my parents when I was a kid and they said, okay, here's $10, go buy something, and I come back with a bunch of stuff, and I was just like, okay, I have 30 cents, they'll say, where's the receipt? And the city doesn't show any receipts, and I think I'd like to be able to implement that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Kendrick, 2 minutes, please.
I think as the single most important thing that a mayor can do, and certainly the most important thing in my idea, is the ability to get lots of people involved in lots of different things. An example is I chair the Youth and Family Action Committee, and we've started a new program with Exposure, and we've had 25 to 30 people at all the meetings creating opportunities for programs for children at risk in our community. So getting people involved, I'll talk a little bit about, in my closing statement, about something else that we're doing that I think is amazing, but getting people in the community involved in their expertise so they feel good about what they're doing, and it makes our community better. So bringing people together, getting expert people to do expert things for our city.
Thank you. Mr. Hepburn, 2 minutes, please.
I think just to continue on what I've been doing on council for 5 years is bringing the residents to the table. Starting commissions, residents have issues, we've opened up our meetings. If residents have an issue, they ask a question to a council member to put it on the agenda. We can discuss it as open governance. I think it's extremely important. We've already started an active transportation commission. If Measure LV passes, hopefully it passes, we will have a fiscal commission of 5 people. I feel that we should do a safety commission too, in order to this stuff with the fire department doesn't happen again, so we have governance by the public. As the residents pay the taxes, I think they need to have a very big seat at the table. And also open governance with our employees. It's extremely important. Issues that they have, we need to address them so they don't turn into bad issues. And one of the biggest things, if I become mayor, I do want to rebuild this fire department. And I do believe in private services for police and fire, not contracting out. But we need to rebuild this fire department so that our residents have a safe environment and they can call 911 and get a fire paramedic to their house in time to save those lives that we so dearly love. Thank you.
Thank you very much, candidates for mayor. Now we're going to turn to a question strictly for the council candidates, and I'm going to start with responses by Mr. Escada first, and then so you have an idea of who's coming up. The question is, 2 committees were established because closed session information was leaked. Would you rescind those committees if elected? Do you want me to repeat the question?
So apparently 2 committees were established because closed session information was leaked.
Would you rescind those committees if elected?
I really, I'm an advocate for open government. So I don't really understand why there are closed session committees. I know that there's certain things that require confidentiality because of non-disclosure or contracts or something like that. I don't believe those specific things are probably the appropriate forum for a city council to discuss. Certain things do have to be kept in confidentiality. So would I disband the committees? I don't see what the purpose is, because it just emphasizes amongst the citizens that there may be some, for lack of a better word, backdoor dealing or handshakes, patting on the back, and that's really not something that a leader should do. The citizens should have complete confidence in the council, in the mayor, in the city manager, any city employees, to ensure that they're there to support and take care of the citizens, not to create some level of false integrity, for lack of a better word. I'm not saying anybody does not have it, but it just emphasizes that, something is going on, and it just kind of breeds discord and distrust. So I think we should probably maybe rescind it.
Thank you. Mr. Gill. Oh. Mr. Gill, please.
Well, I have to concur with Mario. I do believe that if we have meetings of any kind, that they should be open, and I'd love to bring my camera anytime possible. I have no problem coming in and letting people know what's going on. If there is a confidentiality issue, it better be a damn good one. Would I disband something because something was leaked? Why was it leaked? Was it leaked because there was something seriously going wrong? Chances are yes. And that can't happen. That shouldn't happen. You people need to be aware of what's going on. And we need to make sure that you know what's going on. When we say something, when we do something, you should be able to come and ask, and we should be able to give you the answers you need. That's all I got.
Mr. Malici, go ahead, please.
So I believe we're speaking about Resolution 51 and 52. I do not agree with this. I would immediately rescind it. In many ways, I believe this sort of practice alienates the processes of democracy. You have a lack of dialogue, and you have a closed-door session, sort of. We should strive to be more transparent. We should strive to initiate a better sort of relation with the public. And the way to do that is to showcase our wills to be transparent. Communication is key. I believe this resolution doesn't do any sort of good service to our community. In fact, it just hinders dialogue, and I would immediately rescind it. I do not agree with it whatsoever. Thank you.
Ms. Lau, your response, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. So my understanding of Resolutions 1851 and 1852, and I don't know how many of you have looked at the documents or not, I didn't look at them until recently. And so my understanding of the basis for the passage of these resolutions was based on leak of information that could jeopardize the litigation that the city was embroiled in at the time. And so it was a protective measure that was enacted. It was voted in 4-1 pursuant to the government code. And so what I've indicated in the past when people have asked me about whether or not I would rescind, my response is, absent any information that would present to me that there was not an actual harm or an actual concern, then I don't know that we can say yes or no. I think when facts evolve or when you have different information available to you, then you can make a decision. But I wasn't there when that decision was made. I can only tell you upon the basis of why that decision was made, and it was for the protection of the city. So if there is information out there that demonstrates that these resolutions should be repealed because we feel that the city can still be protected, then that's something to look at. But I think that those are the things that we need to evaluate from all corners and understand all the facts before we just say, will you rescind something or not? And I think that's what's really important, is to understand all the factors involved. And I'm not saying I understand all of them. I am just saying this is the basis of my understanding, and based on that, I would want additional facts before I would say yes or no to that.
Thank you. Mr. Emery, your response, please.
Thank you. Without knowing all the details, when I first learned about it, my head started spinning around. My wife Pam had to calm me down. I've been to many public meetings, and they're all conducted under the Brown Act. I don't know how the council pulled this off without violating the Brown Act. And having not seen any of the documents or the recording of the meeting, whether it be open session or closed session, I would say, yes, I would repeal that. Thank you.
Mr. Chang, your response, please.
Thank you. With the information that's provided, it is true. It's difficult to say what's correct or not. But if you look at the logic itself, whenever you have a divided meetings and divided group of people, and then later to come to the same conclusion, it's not going to happen because information will be missing. And that's why we voted for 4 councils and 1 mayor, so that everybody can participate. True, information might be leaked or not, I don't know, right? But if that's the truth, then we might have to implement other measures. Why was the information was leaked? And then not to separate the meetings. I think every single meetings are important. Then every council should have the right to participate on those meetings and then be able to communicate and know what to expect as well. So for that, I will rescind, yes.
Mr. Crosby, your response, please.
Thank you. As the only candidate up here, I sit on closed session items with school boards in DeWarty because I am the assistant superintendent personnel. And when you're in closed sessions, there are only 3 items that you can speak about because the rest have to be out and open. It's based on litigation, based on personnel, and based on any negotiations. And those items have to be in closed session until they can be opened. And if someone is leaking information, then that is why I've heard this resolution up, but I have not seen any evidence. So for me to make a decision on this, I would actually need to see the evidence before making a decision on it. I don't want the easy soundbite of saying yes or no, but that's why you want your candidate and your city council member that's going to look at all the information and to make a decision for the residents. And that's why I believe, again, I am the best choice here for city council because you really need to look at all the evidence rather than just giving you a soundbite.
Thank you very much, candidates. That completes our initial round of questioning. We have 1 more round to go, but I think it would be appropriate now if we took a moment to stand and pledge allegiance to our flag. So those of you who can, please do. So everyone, please stand. If you can, of course, physically stand, please do so. And ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, sir. Everyone, it's come to my attention that there's a Mr. David Allen that we would like to come and sit in the front row, please. Mr. Allen? Where are you, Mr. Allen? He's coming. Mr. Allen. Here we go. Thank you, Mr. Allen. It's a pleasure to meet you. Thank you. Okay, thank you. I want to thank you again for your courtesy and respect shown to these candidates. It is an essential part of our democracy, and it's the way you show respect to the flag to which we just pledged allegiance and to the Constitution of this great country. I'm touched by how great our country is. Excuse me for a moment, but it's a wonderful, wonderful country. Thank you. Thank you. A round of applause for the United States of America. All right, now we're moving into another section where we have a question for all of our candidates, both mayoral and city council. And for this one, I'm going to start with Mr. Kendrick answering the question first, and then Mr. Gibson, since he went first last time, and then, Mr. Hepburn, and then Mr. Gibson. So the question is, what is your position on rezoning of any or all mobile home parks to any other use? Let me say that one more time. What is your position on rezoning of any or all mobile home parks to any other use? Mr. Kendrick, please, 2 minutes.
Thank you. I would just like to clear up a question earlier with just a couple statements.
Mr. Kendrick, really?
Okay.
We can't go back? That's not the rules
Okay.
that we have. Thank you. You
My
can put it in your closing.
My position on mobile home parks is all 8 parks that we have, 5 senior parks, 2 family parks, and actually a trailer park, are all zoned mobile home park zoning. And that I'm committed to keep. Also, there was a letter on one of the mobile home parks that was going in a direction of removal of the mobile homes and potentially changing the zoning. And I led the effort on an ordinance to protect the residents in that park and all the parks with a report that had to be done, which almost makes it prohibitive for the owner of the dirt, because there's 3 elements: the owner of the dirt, the mobile home park operator, and then the residents that live in a coach that's actually personal property that sits on the dirt. So there's 3 elements. But if the owner of the dirt wants to change the use, then they notify the operator and says, we want to eliminate this, what's there in X amount of years, because they're on long-term contracts or lease agreements. Once that happens, but we led the effort. I led the effort along with staff and another council member to make sure that our mobile home park residents were absolutely safe from moving. Thank you.
Mr. Hepburn, 2 minutes, please.
This is an interesting one for me because I've had rumors. I've had people call me from the mobile home communities saying that we heard that you're going to rezone the mobile home communities to build homes and also take away rent control, which is basically a lie. It's an out-and-out lie. I support no rezone of the mobile home communities. And we as a council, when this came up with Las Casitas, if I'm not mistaken, the family trust was going to basically, they were scaring the residents, telling them that we're going to kick you out, they're going to close this mobile home community, we're going to flatten it, blah, blah, blah. In that time, Ordinance 1083, which puts teeth into the residents' rights to be protected by the city against the owner of a mobile home community be rezoning. I will not, as your council member or your mayor, ever allow to rezone these mobile home communities. These are very, very wonderful places where seniors on fixed incomes live. We need to protect them. So no, thank you.
Mr. Gibson, go ahead, 2 minutes, please.
I'm going to have to agree. I don't see any reason to rezone any of the mobile home parks, especially those are places that people call home. So I don't see why that would even be an issue for anybody on council, because Those are residents of Laverne, so to me, that's a big hell no. I would never do that, so.
All right, turning to our city council candidates now, and I'm to mix things up. I'm going to start with Ms. Lau and then jump back and forth to the ends of the table, okay? So, Ms. Lau, would you like me to repeat the question? Okay. What is your position on rezoning of any or all mobile home parks to any other use?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I had the opportunity the other day to speak to some of the residents of the mobile home parks, and I am against the rezoning of those areas because, as others have already stated, these are places where people live, and to think that you could just disenfranchise them and remove them from their premises is really something that I think we should all be cognizant of and aware of. I think more onto that, you've heard about the ordinances that have been passed that strengthen some of the ability to maintain these mobile home parks, but again, as some of you may have heard me say before, it's imperative that we stay on top of these things that are concerning to us so that you're aware of any time that there may be a change, that you have the opportunity to continue to voice your opinion and your perspective and make sure that what you want to happen in the city happens. So I would really encourage you, if this is new to you or if you've not heard about this before, you probably have friends and neighbors that live in some of these parks and you may not have been aware that this was an issue. So I do encourage you to educate yourselves and avail yourselves of that knowledge, whether it's through the city's website or speaking with city staff.
Mr. Emery, your turn.
Thank you, sir. Do we have any mobile home park residents in the audience? Yay. I thought I was the only one here with my wife. I'm the past president of Chapter 152 of the Golden State Manufactured Homeowners League. It's a state organization. We have our attorney, and yeah, right. And it's a very good organization to belong to. To call it, we've got a 1,444 square foot house, and to call it mobile it just is not mobile. They got to tear down so much brick and concrete to even get it on the trailer to move it. At any rate, our rents in the mobile home parks here in Laverne are based on the Consumer Price Index, and they do go up accordingly. Sadly, the Consumer Price Index is always higher than the raise for Social Security. So people that are strapped in with Social Security do have like a 1% loss. On the other hand, property owners, they might be giving up a couple of percentage points. But I love my neighborhood. I don't have to mow lawns anymore. The swimming pool's there when I need it. It's just a wonderful place to live. And if any of you guys want to grab a mobile home park and get a motor home and drive around, it's the way to go. So, no, leave the mobile home parks alone.
Mr. Malici, your turn.
Yes, so I heard rumors of this as well as I was going door to door in one of our local mobile homes, and of course I would say no to rezoning. The council serves the people, and we're your guys' voices, and we shouldn't do a disservice like that. And we need to make sure that the residents are served correctly, that we're going about policy correctly, and that we're helping you guys wherever we can. And like Wally was saying, I was surprised about how nice these mobile homes actually are. I would move to one myself. If you have yourself a pool, it's a very nice place. And yeah, it would be a huge disservice to our community to tear any sort of mobile homes down. So yeah, no.
Thank you. Mr. Chang, your turn.
Thank you. Yes, the question actually is for real. Actually, do I have friends who live in mobile homes that have received letters that telling them they are closing down? So at this point, it's not so much matter whether or not, I'm sure not all the councils, including myself, would vote for no rezoning of the mobile homes. But it's more issues that we have to face off. No rezoning doesn't mean they are not allowed to close the mobile homes. So think about that. We should be more active, proactive, like I said before, contacting those landowners and operators, right? And talk to them about, okay, you're not gonna be able to rezone it based on what the council said, but why are you still closing it, right? So that's a good question to ask, and be proactive. Like I said, we have been very reactive in a lot of issues, and then we end up paying lump sum of money later on and regret about it. So moving forward, like we all said, moving forward, we need to be more proactive and contact those landowners, understanding what they want to do. Just like Sierra Laverne, sitting here, talking about it, we don't really know what the owners want. So the best thing is engage in conversation. If they don't want to talk, let's try it again. If we can reach out to their daughters, to their sons, their families, to their attorneys. Let's try that. Something can progress little by little. Thank you.
Mr. Gill, your turn, please.
I would not rezone. I would keep the mobile parks as they are. The one thing that I've noticed, and I don't know how many have seen it, is when some of these mobile homes actually get bought up by corporations. There was actually a senior housing development in Azusa a couple of years back that was actually bought up by a corporation. And it literally decimated the place by jacking up the rents, by removing the Section 8 housing for the seniors. This was a senior development place, and it was crazy that they even did that. We need to make sure that we take care of our senior citizens, and we need to make sure that we take care of the mobile homes in the correct way. We need to make sure that anybody that tries to purchase these things identifies us as to who they really are and not hide behind some kind of corporation or anything else, so we know what we're in for. We don't want anybody to get in a situation where they're going to have to lose their houses simply because their space rent automatically jumped up by $500. We need to take care of everybody, and we need to take care of our people. Thank you.
Mr. Crosby, your response, please. Your turn.
Yes, it's been a privilege and an honor to go out campaigning and talking to our mobile home residents. I've gotten to sit down with many different residents. Jeff and Charles sitting down with you just the other day was amazing. Jeannie Dacus sitting down with you the other day was truly inspiring, because learning about it's not just a mobile home or a house, it's a community. And they celebrate together and have their community together. I appreciate the actions that the council has done previously. They have done and set up some safeguards for our mobile homes, and we need to continue that. And so no on rezoning, and because these are people's homes and their lives, and we need to make sure and keep all of our communities together in Laverne.
Thank you. Mr. Escada, your turn.
I wouldn't change any rezoning. I mean, what kind of all of us here on this, at this table, we're all about the small town mindset for the community. I mean, what kind of a community would we be, especially as community leaders, to rezone or change an ordinance so somebody else can benefit? I mean, I think Kenny kind of made a wise point that we probably at this point need to, because obviously it's a question of concern for the residents, especially within the park community, but we need, as a city leaders, we need to work with these owners or the owners of the dirt now, so we're not faced with another Sierra Laverne situation, because these people are valuable. They've served their community. They've provided their taxes. Some of them are on fixed income. Some of them are just here just because, it's just a wonderful community. They've grown up here. They never wanted to leave. They may not have been fortunate to live over at, Hillcrest or Pilgrim's Place or over in Claremont and stuff like that. But, I don't think rezoning or changing, it's not going to happen if I'm placed on the council.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, we're moving on now to a question only for the mayoral candidates. And I'm going to go back to Mr. Hepburn to answer this one first, and then Mr. Gibson, and then Mr. Kendrick. Here's the question. The fire department has expressed a desire to go county several times at council meetings. Unions tend to support candidates that share their view. Have you been endorsed by the firefighters union? Do you support their desire for county services? Mr. Hepburn, 2 minutes, please.
Yes, I was supported in my last mayoral campaign, and I am supported by them now in mayoral campaign. I do not support county services. I've said that before. I want to keep our services here local, and I think that the rebuilding of the fire department is very important. Get our stations open back up again. Again, I'll make it very clear. I want to keep our fire department here in Laverne local, not county. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gibson, 2 minutes, please.
I am not endorsed by them. Tim is endorsed by them. But I would like to keep them local. Like I said, I grew up in a firehouse, so I like having a community that has their own fire department. That means something to me, and then it's ours. And then we get to know the people that work there, and then we get to just do the Christmas with them, which is Christmas to me, being able to see Santa Claus like that, always. But I do recognize that if down the line, if I am appointed or elected to the office, then I would have to listen to the citizens. I know it's not something I want to do. I don't want to go county. I want to stay local. But if down the line the citizens want to listen to the assessment that will happen about going county, if they want to look at that, then that's something that we'll have to look at, because it's something that we as a community would be talking about, and then we would talk about it. But personally, no, I do not want to go county.
Thank you. Mr. Kendrick, 2 minutes, please.
I think I expressed earlier in the evening my thoughts on this subject. I grew up here in Laverne. My father was a reserve firefighter, a volunteer firefighter in the 30s. I think we have outstanding personnel on our fire department. I think the issue is getting back to where we can talk and build this department back up and make them feel part of the family again. I think that's critical to this moving forward, but I am adamantly opposed to county services. Thank you.
All right, our next question is for all our thank you. Mom sent me to law school because I'm so articulate. Thanks. All council candidates, and I'm going to, again, vary the order. I'm going to start with the second one into the middle, and then it move to the ends. You'll figure it out, okay? It's varied. So, just so you know, Mr. Chang, you'll be the first one to answer the question, okay? Tell us what you have done for the city of Laverne, volunteer work, etc. I'll repeat the question. Tell us what you have done for the city of Laverne, volunteer work, etc. Mr. Chang.
Thank you. As I mentioned earlier in my opening, I have sponsored events like, Concert in the Park, Taste of Laverne. I'm a member of Laverne Chamber of Commerce, Historical Society. I have volunteered the Christmas gifting morning, and I specifically pick, I was one of the few, only four of us, that had selected the mobile home route, because most people have selected other ones. And I think, besides just that, I think it has taken a lot of my time, and as well as, I also volunteer for other communities as well. But doesn't mean that, more volunteering I do, more services or I have provided to the city. Is how I do it and how I do it and what I selected to do for the greatest good. Like, what I was trained on Laverne CERT, right? So there's a big city here, So I cannot be different places at the same time. So I'll do my best to do for the greatest good. Thank you.
Mr. Gill, your turn, please.
Thank you. As pretty much most of you know, my volunteering has been consisting of making the videos for everyone to see. We've never cut anything out. We've kept everything as raw as possible to make sure that you hear and see everything that is going on in the City Council. At this point in time, that keeps me kind of busy. But I know that when I see or hear that people are watching these videos, I know that I've done, hopefully, a good service to this community. Thank you.
All right, going to the other end of the table, Mr. Crosby, your turn, please.
I have been 2 years part of the Youth and Family Committee. I've coached and parent volunteer of AYSO. I've been a parent and volunteer of California Junior Golf, and been the parent and coach of Autism Spectrum Athletics for needy students. I've also volunteered for our Christmas parade. Besides my 10 years of service at Ramona Middle School, and coached and volunteered on PTA for Laverne Heights and for Ramona, and part of the PTA for Bonita High School. I believe in family and giving back to our schools and giving back to our community.
Mr. Escada, your turn, please.
I think I mentioned a few things earlier, but I'll just elaborate. You know, I was on the school site council for Grace Miller, been involved with the PTA, Girl Scout troop supporter. I don't know how many hours and hours and driving miles I've had to deliver Girl Scout cookies. I know everybody orders them, and I know they're out this year. AYSO, the local region volunteer and coach for several years. I mean, I've sat for hours and hours for coaching and sportsmanship classes that are put out by the AYSO. I volunteer and have been a Sunday school teacher for, my daughter's 23 years old. She's the oldest one. I've been doing that for that long. I've been an usher at Calvary Chapel Laverne. I'm a board member. We have a community outreach every year down the street. It's a fall festival. I don't know how many, it's not hundreds of hot dogs, but thousands and thousands of hot dogs I've helped cook and pass out to the community. And it's every year. And then most recently, I was helping out the Laverne Heritage Foundation. I was driving the tractor around for hours and hours and sucking up diesel because that tractor was spewing out a lot of pollutants. But you know, it's just not about that volunteering. It's about what we do for each other, and that's the most important thing. Everybody's a stranger. There's a lot of strangers here. I don't know everybody, but I'm willing to do whatever needs to be done for the community, and I think I have over the years. Thank you, Judge.
Mr. Emery, your turn.
Thank you, sir. As I said earlier, community service is a way of life for me. My wife and I started out here in Laverne. We both graduated from the Laverne Police Department Citizens Academy, I think it's called. I got my pin on, guys. And as a USA and high school softball umpire, I've done more games here in Laverne and cities around than I could even count. And as a former president of Chapter 152 in the Fountains, I've done things, for instance, I wrote a neighborhood watch program for the whole neighborhood. We're 200 and some odd homes strong. We had dinners, we helped each other get back and forth. But most of all, I'm proud of the fact that my wife, Pam, has given me permission to sit up here at the dais and offer myself as a council member to serve again this city that Pam and I have come to love. Thank you.
Mr. Malici, your turn, please.
So I've grown up here in Laverne. I went to Grace Miller Elementary, Ramona Middle School, and Bonita High School. While I went to Bonita, in our debate club, we did outreach for low-income families, and we helped understand the issues that they experienced most. I also worked with Sustainable Claremont, and this is an organization that helps commit to improving our environment. And we came here to Laverne, and we cleaned up some of our parks and our trails, things like that. I also I worked at Sierra Laverne, and that essentially we just kept the course upkeep and stuff like that and maintained it, and it's a beautiful piece of land. I'm sorry to see it go. I also, just from a neighbor point of view, you know, I live over on Evergreen right over there, and I have a little brother. His name's Connor. He's 13, and we just, you know, we round up the kids on the street, play football all the time at the field. We play basketball, and it's moments like that that make you respect your community and really understand what it means to be here. When you're just having fun with your neighbors, when you're getting out there, you know, helping kids just have a good time. We also go to the skate park a lot, and we spend a lot of time just hanging out around here at Laverne, and yeah, and that's essentially my commitment to my community.
Thank you. Ms. Lau, your turn, please.
Thank you. So for those of you that may not know, I currently sit on the Planning Commission for the City of Laverne. I'm in my second term, and I'm serving as vice chair. I came onto that position, applied and interviewed for it following the passing away of Councilman Rodriguez. I had actually thrown my hat in the ring at that point for the remainder of his term, but then eventually got interviewed for the Planning Commission, and I've been there since. And I think it's been an amazing opportunity to get to know the city a little bit better, to understand some of the workings of the government, and really prepare myself for a role on City Council. Aside from the Planning Commission experience I am really invested in giving back wherever I am, because I believe that it's a thank you for the blessings I've received, and it's an obligation that we all owe when we are given those privileges. We should give back to our communities. So I've sat on my HOA board for Lordsburg Court. I currently sit on the Board of Trustees for the University of Laverne, because I firmly believe that access and opportunity to education are key factors in allowing folks to advance themselves in the communities in which they live. And I firmly believe in connectivity. So it's not just about providing a place for students to go to school, but what do they do after they go to school? And are we connecting them with the right businesses and professions so that they can be successful in their communities? Many of those students who come back here, like I did, or are longtime products of this city. So that's something I'm really invested in. I'm also involved with my sorority as the vice president of finance. I've sat on its foundation board as well, and I've helped found a charter school in LAUSD and done a number of other things, including working for the March of Dimes. I think it's really, really important that we give back and we participate. So I have a whole breadth of experience in multiple areas that I would love to bring those skill sets and those knowledge pieces to this position to share with the city to make it even better.
Thank you. We have a little time left for questions for individual candidates. And so I have a question for you, Mr. Gibson. And then I have a question it's the same question for Mr. Hepburn and Mr. Kendrick. And the one for Mr. Hepburn and Mr. Kendrick is a little involved. So I'm going to give you the question, and then I'll come back to you. The question for Mr. Hepburn and Mr. Kendrick is, the lawsuits and labor problems with the LVFA revealed a lot about all the parties involved. What do you think it revealed about you who are answering the question? Not anyone else, just you who are answering the question. So I'm going to come back to each of you on that question. Let me turn to Mr. Gibson. And the question I have is, you have stated that the city of Laverne has created a system of segregation through over-policing. Could you explain that, please? Is that is that true? That you've said that?
That is part of, yes.
Okay.
That is part of my written candidate statement.
That what? Oh, okay.
Part of the candidate statement that went out.
Thank you.
Now, when I wrote that, what you have to understand is I was trying to turn in my paperwork to be mayor, and I was getting, lack of a better word, I was getting shafted by the city. They didn't want me to run. So I had to write my candidate statement. If I wanted one, I had to write that within about 10 minutes time. So what you're reading is less than a first draft. And yes, I did say that there is a system of segregation created by over-policing, but that's not a problem that is specific to any one city. I believe that that's just a problem that is prevalent everywhere in the state, really. So,
All right, thank you very much. Thank you. And I'll turn to Mr. Hepburn to answer this question then first, and I'll repeat the question. The lawsuits and labor problems with the LVFA revealed a lot about all the parties involved. What do you think it revealed about you? Strictly you.
I've been an employer since 1991, been in the electrical trade since 77. I have 35 employees currently. That is my most valuable possession, are my employees. They make my business or they break my business. Anytime you have a group of people that have an issue, you need to address that issue. And this employee group was mistreated. And as being my employees, if they were mistreated, I would want to correct that situation quickly, bring it to the table, and I would want to make sure that we addressed it and solved it before it got into a legal issue, which it did. So as far as me, address it first, the employees, make sure it's taken care of, and make sure that you do the right thing with the employees. If there's someone that has an issue with it or the problem, you remove the problem. Thank you.
Mr. Kendrick? Sure. I'll do the whole question. The lawsuits and labor problems with the LVFA revealed a lot about all the parties involved. What do you think it revealed about you, strictly you?
First of all, it broke my heart because of my feelings about how valuable I think the fire department as an asset is to our community and the quality of life to our community. It's sad. The nice thing is it's the legal aspect of it is behind us, and all I want to do is to do everything I can to create the kind of value for everybody in our community. So we need to get back together. I've run companies since the mid-'70s, and I've had as many as 50 employees. They're the biggest asset that I've ever had, and the services that are offered are not offered through me, but they're offered through the employees. They're invaluable.
Okay, give me just one more moment while I... All right, I have a question. I'm going to do council candidates for each, same question for each of you. We're going to vary this slightly. And I'm going to use the Judge Reichert random method of selection for responses. And I'm going to start with you, Mr. Gill, this time. What is your primary focus for Laverne, and what do you plan on accomplishing during your term?
My primary focus, if I had one thing, would be unification. I'm sure glad when this election will be over and everybody's going to lay down their arms and we all go back to business. If I have a choice of what I can do, and again, I say with the power of three, is we need to go ahead and fix the fire department. And if we can get that done, that's going to be one of our biggest issues. We need to go ahead and we need to look at the police department to make sure that they are also at a point where they're happy. And we need to make sure that all of our people that are in Laverne are taken care of as well. Thank you.
Let me jump down to the end of the table. Mr. Crosby?
Thank you. My first and foremost is something I actually started last night, is trying to build a bridge with our fire department and making sure and talking to them and listening to their concerns. And we need to make sure and heal. This election has divided Laverne, and Marlene emailed me last night and emailed the whole group about what we need to do on March 4th. And March 4th, we need to really come together, whoever's elected, and become as one.
Actually, I think March 3. Isn't the election on March 3?
I know, but so on March 4th.
Oh, the day after the election, sorry.
Yes.
Sorry, I have a little trouble coordinating dates even in
No
my own
problem.
calendar. Thank
No
you.
problem.
Thank you.
When we have the results
Thank
on
you.
March 4th, really bring us back in the community back together. But you asked also about what do I want to do, and that is keep our community safe, maintain staffing levels for police, fire, and paramedics, make sure that we keep our community parking space open, no rezoning, and make sure that we facilitate our economic development and looking for the future in our taxes and make sure we're doing well for our city. Thank you.
Mr. Chang, your turn.
Okay. Where do I start? Well, first thing, definitely, I also got an email from Marlene. You know, it's really to unite whoever's the council and the mayor, is to unite the city all together and moving forward. Yeah. After that, then definitely we can go item by item. Like I said, my priorities throughout my campaign is really tackle the budget. You know, everything comes from the budget. As long as we can manage and balance the budget properly, then we can move forward with the negotiation with the contract. You know, with the fire department, with the police department, you know, make sure the budget is correct, make sure they are properly covered, and then our infrastructure, you know, and moving forward and more items to go, but those are my first priorities, and definitely the HR. I think that's what I'm most concerned about as well. Thank you.
Mr. Escada, at this end of the table, please, your turn.
Okay. I do believe that there are, obviously, there are more than one department within this city. It's firemen, police, and also the administration. So I think my expertise would be, you know, when I was in the service, kind of management by walk around. I know it sounds like a great idea what Rick has initiated. You know, we have to really get involved with the individuals, the specific departments to know what, so to speak, for lack of a better word, the nuts and bolts are, to ensure that, you know, bottom line is the morale. You have one section of the department or the city that has low morale, then it starts flowing into the other parts of the city. And what we need to do is, like Rich said, is we need unification. We need to ensure that we take care of our city employees, because without any city employees here, this is not a community. It's just a desert.
Thank you. Let me go to Ms. Lau in the center of the table, please. Ms. Lau?
Okay. So I think the most important thing that we need to look at going forward after the election is really, again, how do we repair the relationships that we've had damaged? And it's not just with the fire department, but again, it's within our own community. When, you know, while I appreciate obviously the engagement that happens at city council and the level of, you know, discussion that takes place, how can we make sure that those conversations and those communications remain civil, and that we don't bash each other about what's going on, but really work towards solutions that are better for all of us. I think that's one thing that really has to be looked at. I think the other thing is really concurrently, how do we maintain those lines of communication open? I think that while it is important for citizens to be engaged, how can we as a council and the city be better about communicating out what's going on so that there isn't misinformation, or that there is not this feeling of a lack of trust because we don't know things that are happening. So I think those are the really big issues, and everything else flows from that, because if we can repair the relationships and have better communications, everything else should be something that we can all work on together and come to a resolution.
Thank you. Mr. Emery, your turn.
Thank you, sir. If elected, my first day on the job is to find out where the coffee pot is. Just kidding. I want to put my words into action. I believe in open, transparent governance. I have all my life. I will announce where, when, and what time I will hold my open door meetings whether it be weekly or monthly or whatever the public desires. I did this in South Pasadena, and it worked. You can come and talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly, and I will listen to you. My mom says God gave me one mouth and 2 ears, and I need to use my ears to learn. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Milici, your turn.
I believe we need to build trust and improve relations. When it comes to trust, I made a bunch of infographics for everyone about the city budget. I think things like that measures where we're actively producing simplified accounts of how we're spending money to give the city a better image, to give more trust in our community and see where that money is being spent. When it comes to relations, I believe that people have the best view of their local government when their local government is directly taking initiatives to better improve their lives. For example, one thing I would love to do is have an after-school financial literacy course. We're not taught a lot in school about financial literacy. What's a loan? What's an interest rate? How do you build credit? How do you lease a vehicle? I think lessons like these would help tremendously with our youth. It could be done in a partnership with a local bank, and we could learn valuable assets that help children in their future lives. We take out one of the largest loans in our entire lives after school, a school loan. And we need to better serve our community. And steps like that, that'll help us out.
Thank you. We're moving into the final segment of our program tonight, and that will be closing statements by all of our candidates. But I think it would be appropriate, if you wouldn't mind, if we stood up, and sang our national anthem. Okay? All right? I don't have a voice. We're going to have to do the best we can. And thank you. Please, no one record my voice, because I'm not Frank Sinatra, for those of you in my generation. But let me start. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose bright stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. So we're ready to start our closing statements, and we started the evening at that end of the table with Mr. Hepburn, and so I'm going to start at this end of the table with our council candidate, Mr. Escada. And so, Mr. Escada, you get to go first.
Closing statements? Okay,
Closing statements, please.
Oh, I'm sorry.
3 minutes.
I
You
was
need a moment
making
to-
more notes. Okay.
Okay.
Closing statement. I'm sorry.
If
Thank
you
you,
need-
everybody. I appreciate it. You know, it's far too often that we get a chance to come together like this. And my closing statement is kind of based on that. I'll use the analogy of moving here about 20 years ago. We moved over here off of in Coons, a little bit north of Coons Park, where the undeveloped area of Hillcrest Drive was. And I just want to maybe touch somebody's hearts, but we brought our daughters here. It was like our own children's play yard. There was only the grass field and the oak tree that was on Hillcrest Drive. It was all grass. At the time, they rode their cycles around their circle. They flew their kites around. And then something changed. Hillcrest decided to develop. So it was a little bit unnerving, but it turned out to be a great development. The homes are beautiful, and the people that live there at Hillcrest Drive are even more beautiful. On a micro scale, that's how our city is that we'll have growth and changes with things that we may or may not like. You know, personally, we've experienced it years ago with UOV's, the university's proposed master plan for a tri-level parking on Bonita. I know there was some uproar about that. The past proposal for Walmart, where Steinmart used to be, I know there was people that were very upset. So, in times, past changes have been proposed to the city, and we all united. That's the key thing here, is we all have to unite. So I'm asking you again to support our communal path for development. Things are going to have to be incremental steps is what we have to move forward together to retain the township mindset while offering the same or more than the surrounding communities. That's important. We have to be better than the other cities around us. In order for us to achieve and maintain our community, we need to heal and mend the fissures between Laverne citizens, its public servants, our first responders, and the community and civic leaders. I think that's all I have. Thank you all very much for your time this evening.
Mr. Gill, your turn, please.
Well, I'm going to tell you, it's very wonderful to be in the US of A, and it's very wonderful to be in the Verne. Many of my friends that I grew up with from Ramona, I still keep in touch with today. It's a unique opportunity, and we all, for those of us that have been in the military, we use the military often because it teaches a lot. In my case in particular, when we were in Saudi Arabia, we learned exactly what it was like to lose a lot of freedoms. To listen to the prayers as they went along the sands and as the buildings had to close down. To listen to when people were literally executed at Chop Chop Square for what they did wrong. That still happens today. We should be glad and proud that we are in a country that does not do that, that takes care of each other, that once this is done and over with, we can all shake hands and be friends again. Thank you.
Mr. Malici, your turn, please.
I'd just like to say thank you for all of you for having me here. I really appreciate it. I believe this is a great showmanship of democracy, and we should continue to take strides like this to better improve our community. I believe Laverne has so much opportunity, where it's a beautiful area with beautiful homes, wonderful people that live here nestled up against the foothills, and we can really make a change for the better, and I believe I can offer that. For one, Sierra Laverne. Sierra Laverne, the recent closure is quite saddening to me because I used to work there. I golf there all the time. You have a beautiful landscape, a variety of different animals. So I think if I were your council member, I would work with the county or local nonprofits or local universities to try to at least purchase part of that land, to maintain it, to keep the environment well, and to better serve the residents that live around it. I also have a lot of background in community services, and I'd really want to improve relations by improving our community services department. It currently has a budget of $1.2 million, and I don't believe that's enough. I want to offer more classes to the elderly. For example, in Azusa, we offer free technology classes, and this really helps a lot of people. A lot of elderly folks don't understand, how to use Google, things like that, and it really improves their lives once they learn these things. We need to continue just striving to improve our relations between departments. For the fire department, for example, I want to have a sit-down discussion, make it public, and have all the firefighters come, all members of our community come and just discuss what the issues are at hand, and have an actual vote by the community to decide what we should do about this, whether it be county or keep it city. We should just see what suits our city best overall. And I'd just like to say I believe I'm just a different candidate. I'm young. I'm a product of Laverne. I've lived here my entire life. I spent a lot of time here, and I really love this community, and it really means a lot to me. And I really like improving the lives of everyone around me. And if I've learned one thing throughout this entire experience about running for this seat, it's that I really enjoy talking to people. Like, you learn a lot when you speak to residents, things you never would have taken into account, things you have never noticed if not for that conversation. And it's that conversation, that dialogue that makes us a community. I think more community-based and orientated events. For example, in downtown, we don't have the farmers market anymore. We should pursue a variety of different events, more culturally appealing, just bringing the people of Laverne together so you could come speak to your neighbor, so you could see some person you haven't seen in a while and you can have a good conversation. That's that rekindling, that sort of support of the community and our members in it that's going to truly make the city better. So again, I'd like to thank you all for having me here. And I really do believe that we can all initiate a change for the better. Thank you.
Ms. Lau, your turn, please.
I'd like to start with my favorite story about my dad. When I was probably about 11 or 12, I told him that I wanted to be president of the United States. And he looked at me and he said, "That's good. I've always wanted to stay in the Lincoln bedroom." And so it's my favorite story because it shows how supportive my dad is and how optimistic and hopeful he was for his children to be able to grow up in a country that would allow them to be able to voice their opinions and their perspectives and to be involved in their own governance. And I think that has been really important for me, knowing what my parents came from and where they came from and what they had to do to make sure that my sister and I both had good educations and an opportunity for a better life. And I don't take that for granted at all. And so I think sitting up here, it's been an exhilarating experience getting to know all of you and being out and about in this city and knowing that for the most part, we're all really good people. No one's slammed a door in my face. No one's been mean. Everybody's just wanting to know what's going on and how can we make this place better. And I think if we can remember that about each other, that really we just want to make things better. We want to be in a better community. We want to continue to be able to walk into our stores and in our parks and see people and faces that we know and say hello and feel good about being here. And I think that it's important for us to take advantage of the rights and the privileges that we have and to continue to educate ourselves and participate meaningfully in our government. It doesn't mean we all have to run for office, but it does mean that we all have to give back somehow. And I think that's really vital. And I would love, my aspirational goal for this city is that we are a beacon for other cities, that other people look to us and say, man, I wish I lived in Laverne. I want to live in Laverne. I want to have neighbors like the people in Laverne have. And I think that's powerful, and I think we can make that happen. I know we can, but it does take moving past differences and really looking at each other and saying, I see you as a human being, and I want to make this better with you. And so I am really excited about this opportunity. I hope that you are excited for me, and I hope that, again, like my friend Claudia coined many years ago, Laverne is where friends live. I hope we do have that opportunity to build these bridges together, and I hope that we do have the opportunity to learn from one another. While I know many things, I know many of you know other things that I don't, and I think that's why that dialogue is so vital and important. I can't make solutions for you without knowing what your input and your perspectives are. And so I really welcome that opportunity to meet with you and to get to know you better and to be able to say hello to you at the store or at the park while we're walking our dogs or whatever it might be. So thank you so much for tonight, for your time. Again, I know you could be somewhere else. I know you could be doing other things, but this is so important, and I'm so glad you're here and you're invested. So thank you for being my neighbors. Thank you for being a part of this community, and thank you for everything that you do to make this place better.
Mr. Emery, your turn, please.
Thank you, sir. Again, community service has been a part of my life almost forever. My closing statement might be a little passionate. I served the U.S. Army, and I was a first responder as a police officer. I'm going to use a President Reagan quote here, and I'm not going to take credit for it. I'm being honest and open. With every fiber of my body, I will tear down the wall that divides our city hall from our fire department. These firefighters and paramedics put their lives on the line every day to protect us. They deserve an open, transparent dialogue that our current city council and city staff has been unable to provide for over 2 years. That's not acceptable. I remain confident that a fresh new city council and the firefighter paramedics can put together a contract that both sides of the issue can agree upon and fit within our city budget. Thank you kindly for everybody being here and all you folks at home watching on cable or wherever that red lights is going. I'm not much on these fancy gadgets, but I am passionate. We are broken, and we need to fix this, and I will tear down that damn wall.
Mr. Chang, your turn, please.
Thank you, and I want to start with thank you everybody for being here tonight as well. Leadership for me means not just word, but listening, action, and result. It did not take me 10 years to find out that I want to serve my community. It did not take me 10 years to find out that I have solutions to help to solve the city problems. Instead of taxes, we can find ways to bring more businesses, vendors and shoppers, and job opportunities back to Laverne, which will expand our tax base. I'm not a politician, but I have spent my entire life helping business and individuals to manage their finances, creating jobs and building communities with collaboration and transparency. My experience made me the most qualified person needed in City Hall, and hopefully with that I can improve everybody's quality of life, including myself. Thank you.
Mr. Crosby, your turn, please.
Thank you. Just like, oh, it's okay, it's almost done. Thank you for coming out. I know you've been here for 2 hours, and this is what democracy is. Really listening, having an open mind, and really looking for everybody's and what we all stand for. 23 years ago, I had the privilege to start working in Laverne. And then I went to school at University of Laverne and graduated with my teacher credential and master's in administration. Then 14 years ago was the luckiest day when my wife and I first moved to Laverne, and we knew, because of me working here, this is the town we wanted. We knew how special Laverne is. We know the community coming together. But this past Christmas, it really proved it to me. Going around on the fire trucks and going to communities, we thought our little block was the only one that came out afterwards and hugged every neighbor and saw everyone and exchanged gifts. But going around every street in this city, that's what happens. We're a community that we work together and we collaborate together, and we need to make sure and bring that back. My 3 beliefs, strong beliefs, is nurturing relationships, building and facilitating collaboration, and make sure leading by example with a strong work ethic. I believe that is what the city needs, and I believe I'm the best candidate here for city council. So on March 3rd or 11 days prior, or mail it in today, go out and vote and make sure that you're informed. And thank you so much for coming out tonight.
Mr. Gibson, your turn, please.
Thank you, everyone, again. Just to reiterate, positions in government, even here, have become about power and recognition, whether it's about the wanting of power or the power to govern, the power of position or the ability to say that you hold or have held office or gained a title. 5 people to give voice to over 30,000 is a responsibility, and that responsibility is too important to hand over to those who haven't found leadership means to relinquish power and not to consume it. We are missing the differences between politics and policy, spending so much time on politics that policy has become no longer important. Every person that resides in this city is a part of this community, whether they just moved here today or their family has been here for generations. Whether they can vote or not, every person in this community is affected by the people chosen to represent them. Every single person deserves a voice and has the right to be heard. And when our viewpoints differ, we're still concerned about the same things, just in different ways. And sometimes we have to look outside what we are used to or the comfort with to solve them. Elected office should not be about what you can do for me, but what can I do for you? How can I help you? A vote for Zach Gibson is a vote for actual fiscal responsibility with an outside audit. A vote for Zach Gibson is a vote for modernization and the modernization of the access to our government services and information, true transparency and accessibility in government, and do away with closed-door city council meetings. We are all in this together, moving forward to the future, toward the future, running the same race, and at some point the baton must be passed for the race to continue, because life continues, and we move forward whether we like it or not. What is most important is the realization that when you serve other people, you end up helping each other. And all I want for this campaign, for this time that I have in front of you here, is to ask that you help me serve you. To look at as what is going on as a whole, instead of just the small parts or the ones that only affect us personally, and to really consider our current path is the best path, or if we can do better. Not one person can do this alone. We have to make the choice to walk together or fall apart, to serve each other or to serve no one. It's time to put Laverne's future first. Thank you, everyone.
Mr. Kendrick, your turn, please.
In 2011, I helped co-found the first development committee ever in the city of Laverne. We used interactive social media to promote commercial vacancies. We began having regular morning meetings with commercial property owners, our commercial site brokers, and other brokers doing business in Laverne. The outcome, San Paulo Business District, just north of Brackett Airfield, is full. We've added additional properties to the district, and all those are full. Gilead Biopharmaceutical Company has been added on 23 acres on the west end of the San Paulo Business District, with the city receiving hundreds of thousands of dollars of additional revenue, and Gilead currently employing 500 people. In 7 or 8 years, Gilead will be built out. They will employ 1,000 people, all spending money in the city of Laverne. Foothill Boulevard reached 97% occupancy and will again when the vacant Osh building reopens with a new business and with the completion of the new restaurant at the site of the previous Baker Square restaurant. Laverne has reached my goal of 100 restaurants, from fine dining to fast foods, bringing in additional revenue, and from many living outside Laverne. Old Town has seen a huge influx of restaurants and increased sales. In fact, in the last 6 years, restaurant sales just in the Old Town have increased from under $4 million to over $13 million in 2019. We have never had more businesses or more jobs in Laverne. And last year, 93.6% of Laverne's residents on a survey said their quality of life in Laverne was either good or excellent. All this while I've been mayor. I'm a person who finds a need and fills it. I founded hands-on history with a lot of your kids have gone through for the Bonita Unified School District. 100,000 students and 25,000 parents have participated. I co-founded the Career and Technical Education Center at the Fairplex, and today sit as a co-chair. Hundreds of graduating high school students are being hired into well-paying entry-level and career-oriented jobs. I started Laverne Cop Talk, a program with the police department to help make our city safer after 100,000 state prisoners have been early released to the public starting in 2011. A new group I and others are leading is a committee on social awareness and cultural diversity, higher quality for all. One of the things that I would like to talk about real quick, we've talked a lot about the city fire department tonight, and yes, we have problems, and yes, we need to fix it. But I would also like to compliment the other employees in this city who provide tons of services. I am a collaborative leader, working to bring out the best in everyone, leading to high-quality decisions for high quality of life for every resident in Laverne. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hepburn?
Well, thank you.
Go
for
ahead,
all being,
please.
Thank you for all being here tonight. I want to say it has been a true joy and a privilege while campaigning to have met so many wonderful residents in this great community. It has also been an honor and a pleasure to have met so many wonderful people that are helping with my campaign. I can truly call them my family. My opponent, on the other hand, has people working on his campaign that have destroyed 4x8 signs, threatened 2 owners with loss of business if they keep my signs up. Jim Murphy's threatened 3 firefighters. They have filed a complaint with the police. I have a sitting councilwoman that is challenging my supporters in their front yards while they're voting for me. I'm getting residents of multiple mobile home communities calling me and telling me that my opponent is saying that I will do away with rent control and rezone the mobile home communities. Just yesterday, I received a call from one of the mobile home park residents that my opponent said that I wanted to go county fire. I've cleared that up tonight. And that it would negatively affect all of the residents in their mobile home community. I have and I will always take the high road. This is not the Laverne I know and love. This is not how you run an election and try to smear someone. This is a reflection on how my opponent runs the city. This type of behavior is unacceptable and is dishonest to all of us. This all needs to stop, and we need to right this ship and move forward with my leadership and my direction. I will make sure we rebuild our fire department, have complete transparency with our residents and employees. We all need to work together for fiscal responsibility. I'm the only member on the council that takes no benefits from this city. No food, no functions. I pay for it my own self. That's the way it should be. I'm the solution, not the problem. It is a privilege, not a right, to serve you, the residents and employees. I will work with the new and old council and the city staff to build new bridges for our great community. This is why you need to vote for me, Tim Hepburn, for mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I think it would be, we're just about done, famous last words, but I have a few things I'd like to add. First, let's have a round of applause for all of these fine candidates. Second, there are some people I'd like to thank, our timekeepers, Monica Barrican and Joe Barrigan, thank you, okay. And the people who assisted me with the questions, Darlene Foy and Sharon Clark. And I would like to thank this fine audience. The civility, courtesy, and respect that you showed these candidates truly showed courtesy, respect, and honored our Constitution, for this great country. And I would like to close by just adding that I think the founders of this great republic are looking down and smiling at us tonight, because this is truly democracy in action. A round of applause for all of our great citizens of this great country. Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.